This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Where Christopher Robin plays, you'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood day.
PlayStation Pop Experience. We're on our way to the 100-Acre Wood to see Winnie the Pooh and his friends. How you doing? Welcome back to Pop Goes the Classics Disney Edition. I am Andy Atherton, one of your co-hosts tonight. Tonight I am in the driver's seat to talk about one of my personal favorite characters from when I was a very little boy. Still to this day, I still love him to pieces. And actually, one of his friends is probably almost his equal in terms of my love. In terms of, I apologize if you hear a squeaky toy. My dog has just returned from his vacation, and so he's excited too for me to talk about Winnie the Pooh. But you know who else is excited? My co-host, as we're going to talk about 1977's The Many Adventures of the Winnie the Pooh. Let me bring in the first one is Steve Riddle. Steve, welcome to the 100-Acre Woods.
If it is a good day, which I doubt.
You're the ER of our crew.
I think I'm a little more cheerful than he is. But how you doing, Andy?
I'm good. How are you feeling on Pooh? Is he one of your favorites? Where's he rank for you?
He's definitely up there. He's I've never actually I don't think I've ever read any of the stories about him, but I definitely this is a movie I used to like watching, and I did like watching the New Adventures of Winnie Pooh that was on TV back in the early 90s. So yeah, Pooh's definitely been one of the favorites of mine growing up.
All right. Also joining us to round out our trio is Miranda Berthold. Miranda, how are you? Welcome to 100-Acre Wood.
Thank you. The things that make me different are the things that make me.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yes.
And how are you on Pooh and his gang? What are they like?
I love Pooh. I think it was more of my brother's favorite when we were kids, but like the quote I just shared there from a good old little piglet, there's a lot of life lessons that you can learn from Pooh when you go back and rewatch as an adult. So I am very fond, and it's just got a tender play or a soft spot there for Pooh.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, I like I said, I love Winnie the Pooh. Growing up, it was always a favorite of mine. Just Tigger too, though. I mean, I think Pooh is just so nice and innocent and adorable, and Tigger is just kind of like how I was as a kid, kind of like how my son is like just bouncing everywhere and just full of energy and just silly and ridiculous. And that's pretty much how I live my life. So this movie was released in 1977, and it's actually mostly derived from three previously released animated featurettes that was based on the books by A.A. Milne. That is Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, that was released in 1966, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day from 1968, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 from 1974. That they link the three featurettes to allow the stories to merge into each other, and then they took some they add some stuff to kind of close the film out from the House in the Pooh Corner, where Christopher Robin has to leave the woods for a little while. So guys, let's kind of talk about the movie though as we go and the crowd. Miranda, so it opens up with this really nice, the Sherman Brothers, Winnie the Pooh is playing, and you see Christopher Robin's childhood room here and the stuffed animals that make up our friends of the 100-Acre Woods. What do you think of the opening of this movie, where we kind of it's a storybook, one of those classic tales, and where we see the stuffed versions of the animated characters we're about to meet. What did you think of this opening sequence?
I actually really like this sequence because I think it shows I guess I can't find the word that I really want to use, but I guess it kind of shows what a kid would imagine, or if a storybook actually came to life, what it would be in my sense, because you see that all the time. Kids, their rooms and they're reading their book, and so to me, the story that you're about to see unfold is essentially what Christopher Robin imagines when he's playing in his room, and I think that's really cute.
Mm-hmm. Steve, what do you think of the live action, but not really, title sequence?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely because the whole point of the thing is like you're going into like do the imagination of a child, so it makes sense that he would have all these different stuffed animals and he would imagine them alive. It is kind of funny the stuffed animal version of Owl that's in his room looks nothing like what we see in the animation, no. which is kind of funny. And also going into when we see like they do the little introduction of the cartoon world, the cartoon version of Piglet that we see in the opening is so weird. It looks nothing like what we eventually see him as in the throughout the film. I just kind of thought that was something interesting. But yeah, it's definitely very unique opening for a film that we never really see that much going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a couple of things that I didn't, I guess I never picked up on before as I did during this rewatch. The fact that, I mean, you knew everything was kind of spelled phonetically, like the way it sounds, the way honey is spelled and house is spelled and stuff like that. And, but, also, Steve, what do you think of the storybook aspect? Like, because, Sebastian Cabot, wonderful job as the narrator. We heard him in the past as Bagheera in Jungle Book, amongst other roles. But what do you think of that aspect of the movie where it kind of like went along with the storybook?
Yeah, I agree with you. You haven't, like I said, again, it's all about entering a child's imagination and having it almost read as a story really gives it that extra feel. And having the narrator kind of add everything together, and like you see as the film progresses, you see the storybook, you see the page turn, and you see these characters interact with the words, and it just makes it feel very unique.
Yeah, they kind of break the fourth wall, so to speak, with the narrator. Miranda, what do you think of that part of the storytelling here?
I really enjoy what they do. I kind of like you were talking about how they're looking at it, the words phonetically, and you're looking at kind of like breaking the wall, talking to the narrator. And I think that's really cool because a child would be doing that as well. When going back to like the original opening or the beginning, a few minutes before this part, they would be doing that. Like you would talk to yourself, like you would narrate and then talk to yourself, and then or answer the narrator or the voice in your head because you're playing and you're creating a story, and you would spell things incorrectly but phonetically. And so I think all of those things there also just make it, I don't know, it's kind of like an immersive thing, especially when you are a kid, because you look at it and you don't see anything weird or different or out of place. You're like, oh, he's playing with his friends. Like it makes sense.
Yes. So then we start to meet Pooh and his friends. Pooh is voiced by Sterling Holloway, who we have talked about a lot of the great voice actors who we've had in these animated films. And I mean, it's hard to argue that this is not Sterling Holloway's signature voice. This is his most well-known. He is Pooh. As somebody who likes to do voices, Pooh does sound like Sterling Holloway, but there are some different inflections. It is extremely difficult. I have tried to do Pooh for years, and I really can't really get the hang of it.
It's a hard one.
You have to kind of go a little lower, a little. Oh bother! Like it's not easy. But he is a very very little brain. He's a little obsessed with honey. He gets a little rumbly in his tumbly. The how far he'll go to get honey is really the basis of the first part of the movie of Pooh and the Honey Tree, where he puts himself into a puddle of mud to make himself into a little black rain cloud. Miranda, so talk about Sterling Holloway first, his voice work here with Pooh, and then kind of talk about Pooh as the character, how you feel about him.
I think he's adorable because it's like this, you think of a bear as a kid and you get, well, I know where I grew up at, you kind of get told like bears are scary, like don't go near them, and we're talking about real life bears, they are, but I think in this sense it kind of made bears innocent and made you, I don't know, just kind of smile and enjoy Pooh's presence on screen. He's harmless, but he is so endearing and caring. And as we get further in and we see how he interacts with his friends, you really just can't not love him. Mm-hmm. You have to. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Steve?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said about this being kind of like, when you think of Sterling Holloway, although he has voiced so many great characters over the years, when you think Sterling Holloway, you think of him as Winnie the Pooh. And yeah, Pooh is just this, lovable, character that, like you said, he has really his main ambition is just to eat honey, and, just his mannerisms and like the bother, and, when he's, think, he's like, think, and just the just the fact he's he sings about exercising in the morning, like up, down, touch the ground, and even as far as climbing the honey tree, he's singing about that and just trying to get his honey. And the way he interacts with the other characters, specifically Christopher Robin, it's just, it really makes him such a like I said, a lovable and very endearing character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have his friends that come along. We have Eeyore, the donkey, who's kind of a, hi there, probably not good, if it's a good morning, which I doubt. Eeyore doesn't really he does get some shine in this movie, but, he really comes into his own in some later Winnie the Pooh stories. And we have Kanga, who's kind of the mom of the group, because she obviously is a mom, with Roo, who's kind of the little innocent boy. That I think is probably, the most Christopher Robin. You have Owl, who is kind of the know-it-all. You have Rabbit, who's somewhat neurotic. And then we have Piglet, who is really Pooh's like closest friend, who is even more innocent and just such a sweetheart, basically. There's no other better way to put it. I mean, we will talk about another character as he gets introduced later, but I did not realize, as I'm watching this, I'm like, where is Piglet? And originally they did not want Piglet in the story, in the animated version. That's why we see Gopher, who is not in the books, and he is there to represent an American, I guess, because these are kind of British books. I don't know if you've ever seen I'm trying to remember I think it was Christopher Robin or something like that, the movie that came out with the story of the grown up of A.M. Milne's son, I think it might have been.
With Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, Ewan McGregor,
yes.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
I enjoyed that movie, yeah. So Steve, talk about the rest of the gang, we meet here, between Eeyore, Kanga, and Roo, Rabbit, Owl, and Piglet, and Gopher.
Yeah, and I like how each one has its own like very distinctive personality that make them who they are. Like you said, Eeyore is very gloomy and glum and all that, and like I said, Kanga's kind of the mom and of the group, and Roo's the little ball, the ball of fire that's always wants to go on an adventure. Owl's the one who thinks he knows it all, but really doesn't. Like it's funny, I don't know if I've ever heard Rabbit called neurotic, but that's definitely a good way to describe him. And like I said, Piglet, such this adorable little guy who's very close with Pooh, and Gopher's kind of the just his own little personality, and they all kind of tie together with Christopher Robin, who's kind of seen as the adult of the group, even though he's not. So it's just they all have their own very dynamic personalities that make them all bounce off each other very well and provide this great atmosphere for the 100 Acre Wood.
Mm-hmm. All right, Miranda, what do you think of the rest of the friends here?
So I love all of the friends. Gopher is actually super hysterical in his own right. The narcissistic craziness that you get from Rabbit is both hysterical and a little annoying, but like you still want it. I'd be lying if I didn't say that Eeyore and Piglet were both kind of my favorites, because they're both depending on the day, it depends on which one of those you might get from me. But I'm also Kanga because I tend to be the mom of the group. What I love about this is if you sit and think about it for a second, it's kind of like what we see in Wizard of Oz, for example, where when Dorothy is in Oz, there's someone from her life, or important people in her life represented in the characters that you come across on the screen. And I think that's the same here. Is Christopher Robin, as he's creating these, because that's what he's done. He's given his stuffed animals personas and lives and voices. And if you go down through the chart, it's almost like if we knew more about him, all of these people would correspond to someone in his life, Kanga probably being his mother. Mm-hmm. And even though Roo and Christopher Robin are kind of on screen together, Roo, he probably is kind of like himself, never allowed to do anything. So I think it's very interesting when you look at it from an adult lens and you see this, you're like, I guarantee you, because I'm sure if we all sit here right now and thought about our close-knit friends groups, you probably have someone in your life for each of these characters. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what he did. I think when he created this world, and kids do it when they create their imaginary world, they unbeknowingly create people in their imaginary world. They're like those that are around them every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to work with a guy many, many years ago. We called him Eeyore. How you doing? I'm okay. How are you?
Yes.
Like, how was your weekend? It was fine.
I have a friend like that, and he knows that. And he's like, I am just Eeyore today. And that's his way of telling people, like, I'm okay, but don't ask a lot of questions because I'm just going to be like, I'm fine.
So the first part of this story we see is it's Pooh in the honey tree. He's kind of obsessed. He's out of honey, and he tries to get up to the honey tree. The bees kind of chase him off. Christopher Robin helps him escape, and then he happens upon Rabbit's house, and he kind of just invites himself over to have some lunch, and he eats a little too much honey because as he leaves, he gets stuck in the front door, I guess, of Rabbit's house, and he ends up staying there for quite a period of time. This was famously kind of a joke in, I think it was a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, because I think Silent Bob gets stuck at one point, and you see like just his butt hanging out of a thing, and Jay goes just like Winnie the Pooh right there. Mm-hmm. So Miranda, so what do you think of poor Pooh? And what Rabbit is forced to look at, basically, Pooh's his hind parts, and he tries to like make the best of it, and you can just see how it just kind of wears him down, where he can't use his front door, and he has just Pooh's tushy sticking in the hole here. What do you think of this part of the story here?
I love this little story or sequence because it is its own story, but you had mentioned earlier they kind of flow them all together on purpose. But this specific story is really funny, and it's kind of, if you look back at it, Steve mentioned earlier like the little songs and things that take place during this part, and your introduction to Pooh, I think, is probably the most iconic and the most thought about. Like even with the movie not on right now, I can see in my head Pooh's butt stuck and the little face that ends up on it, and it kind of, then takes me forward. It makes me think of the face they draw on Charlie Brown's head and just like so many other things. I think it's hysterical. And it just, the things they go through is exactly what you would do. This sounds horrific, but think of as a kid, the things that you're like, I bet I can fit my head through there, or I bet I can fit through there. So it is exactly what a little kid who's maybe a little bit squishy, it's exactly what they would do.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can fit through here.
Oh yeah, everybody's done that. Or I could make that. I could jump that. Oh, I remember, getting all my friends daring me to like go down on the train tracks to go over, to go over there, and like I couldn't get myself back up, and I seriously panicked. Luckily, they were my friends and pulled me up, but it was terrifying. So Pooh seems to take it all in stride.
He does.
But yeah, it's definitely something like a child would do. Like, oh, I made my way in. Why can't I make my way out?
Right.
You just stuffed yourself full of honey. Steve, what are your thoughts on this part?
Yeah, this is a fun story. Like you said, Pooh will go to great lengths to get honey, even going as far as to cover himself in mud and pretend to be a little black rain cloud. And to the point that he even he even asks Christopher Robin to open up to take out his umbrella and say it's rainy when it's not. And yeah, poor Rabbit. Like when Pooh's like outside, going through this whole scheme in his head about going in to get honey, and Rabbit overhears it, and he says, "Oh, not again!" And, like, this is implying this has happened before. And then, like you said, Pooh getting stuck in the hole, and Rabbit trying to put his little his Pooh's behind there in a frame and trying to dress it up, only for Pooh to sneeze and mess it all up. And speaking of that, Kangaroo trying to cheer Pooh up by giving him honeysuckle flowers, and Pooh's first instinct is to try to eat them because it has honey. And then that little part where in night where Gopher shows up with his little lunchbox that happens to have a jar of honey in it, and Rabbit realizes he's like no more honey, and he even puts a little sign up. He's like, don't feed the bear, like Pooh's a wild animal. And then at the end when they finally are able to pull him out, and then Pooh goes flying through the pages, and then where's he happen to land? In a honey tree, and all the bees get shot out of their home, and they're like, Christopher Robin's like, don't worry, Pooh will get you out, and Pooh's like, oh, don't worry, I'm okay. And we see he's got like all this honey for him that he can eat. So just such a fun segment. And like Miranda said, Pooh just takes everything in stride because he eventually gets what he wants at the end, which is a lot of honey to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things always seem to work out for Pooh. And I love the Gopher here just shows up. But again, to me, it was like, I'm watching this and I'm like, I don't remember Piglet not being in this thing for like the first like almost half an hour. Like
I didn't remember either. I'm gonna be honest. When you first said that, I was like, no, he's present, and he is. But I thought he was sooner. Yeah,
and also like I did remember though that Tigger is not in the beginning because we get a big intro to Tigger once he shows up. He kind of makes an entrance, so to speak. But we get this nice big line of human chain basically to get him out with Christopher Robin. Kangaroo report Eeyore loses his tail again. So now we move on to Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, where it's basically the 100-acre wood is got a lot of wind going on, and it's really made up of Pooh going to his thoughtful spot where he could just sit there and think about things, and just has his difficulty making it there. We run into we see Gopher again, and that's where we get our introduction to Piglet. So who goes first this time? I'm trying to remember now. I think Steve goes first. So when we do meet Piglet, what do you think of his intro here?
I think it was a good intro to him. You kind of realize who he is. He's very very kind of skittish, and he talks about the tree he lives in, and his grandfather Trespassers William, and and just the fact that he's so small that this breeze blows him away so easily, and it just happens to run into Pooh. And I love how when Pooh goes to his thoughtful spot and Gopher meets up with them, and Gopher tells him that it's Wednesday, it's a big holiday, when he probably mistook it for it's just a simple Wednesday, but because it's so windy, it's Wednesday. And then Pooh makes it his mission to go about and wish everybody a happy Wednesday. And like he says, he meets up with Piglet, and they end up getting his scarf unfortunately unravels, and he ends up becoming a kite for Pooh to grab onto. So just but yeah, it's just like I said, it's just a good little introduction there to Piglet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Miranda, what do you think of it?
I absolutely love this introduction. I'm like you, like I said a moment ago, I really thought Piglet showed up before this time. But, if you think about it, we talk about how Tigger makes a grand entrance shortly. I guess Piglet kind of does too in his own little way. And I think it's really adorable. Piglet is just one of those characters that you, again, like Pooh, you can't not like. Like, it's just he's just very endearing, very innocent, and just so charismatic.
Yeah, Piglet is he's on par with Pooh in terms of how childlike he is, but he's kind of like a little different where Pooh is singularly focused on honey. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but Piglet is just wants everybody else to be happy.
Yeah.
Okay, well if that may, as we'll learn a little later, that Piglet just doesn't want to make waves, so to speak, and then they end up at Owl's house, and Owl, due to the wind and where Owl's house is, it ends up, going over and going down. So, but right before that, we have, the wind going on outside and making a lot of noise, and that causes Pooh to kind of go on patrol in his own house. Where he talks to himself in the mirror. He's got his little pop gun, I guess, with the cork in it. And there, lo and behold, probably making the biggest splash in the movie is our friend Tigger, T-I-double-Ger, as we learn. And we learn he is the only Tigger, because there's the most wonderful things about Tiggers. Tiggers are the most wonderful things. The heads are made of rubber, the bombs are made of springs. I'm not going to sing the rest of the song because I don't want to torture the listeners. But I am the only one, voiced by the great Paul Winchell. That again, his signature voice, and we've heard Paul Winchell he's been in tons of things, and most recently he was the not so PC Chinese cat in the Aristocats. But Miranda, Tigger makes a big entrance, and what are your thoughts on that?
So now as an adult, I would just like to call out, I'm pretty sure that Tigger is neurodivergent without question. Mm-hmm. He definitely has some ADHD.
He is the poster tiger for that, I think.
I think so too, because that's what goes on in my brain like 24/7. I love Tigger. I think there's something, and I think I've already said this about like every character that you asked me about, but there is something about each and every one of these characters that's just so special and that you just fall in love with so quickly. And that's what happens here is he comes in on the scene and it's like those people that you meet in life that you're like, wow, they're so loud, but I want to be their friend. Like, oh my gosh, they're so out there, but I want to be their friend. And I think that's Tigger. He's just one of those like where Piglet is timid and scared about everything. And Pooh is focused on one thing and just wants everyone to be friends. Tigger wants everyone to have fun and be happy. And like, he's like the hype man of the group. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something special about that.
He's like that loud, boisterous person at the party that you just want to,
you
want to be around. You want to be in that circle, like talking to him and hearing his stories. Like, there I was.
Yeah, and then when people say something about them, you're like, oh no, that's just Tigger. Like that's just him. Like he's okay.
Yeah, there was a Disney sing-along tape. I'm going to date this when Jessica was really little, and he shows up at one point, and we watched this tape a lot every time without fail. When he made his entrance in the sing along, it was like and it was also the walk around character sing along, from Disney. She's like Tigger, like without fail every time. So Steve, what are your thoughts on Tigger? How he makes his entrance here?
Yeah, this was definitely a really good introduction for Tigger. You figure out, you've learned about who he is. He's definitely very one of a kind. And as we talk about his personality, it definitely comes into conflict with somebody else in the 100 Acre Wood, which we'll see come into play in the next story. But he's definitely he's very unique. That's definitely a good way to put him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely. He's like a breath of life, I guess, into the story. And then we get a funky sequence here where Pooh starts to dream, and he dreams of Heffalumps and Woozles. They're like hard to describe there because they have all different shapes and sizes and colors and forms. Kind of reminds me, it's like if you took Alice in Wonderland and you mixed in the pink elephants on parade in the Dumbo sequence, and I think you get Heffalumps and Woozles. I rather enjoyed it because I think it's a very silly song. It's a little I could see where it could be jarring for little kids because it's not normal. Like you've had this nice sweet story up until now, and all of a sudden you get this thing that's like, what is this? What is happening? Steve, kind of looks like Horton a little bit too. I have it on in the background from Horton Hears a Who. But Steve, what are your thoughts on the Heffalumps and Woozles sequence here?
I really enjoyed it. Like you said, you could tell that the animators definitely drew some inspiration from Pink Elephants on Parade when they came up with this segment. And it's funny because the whole thing started because Tigger, casually said, "Oh, he likes honey," and then he tastes them, and he's like, "Nope, don't like honey." And then he kind of just makes a mention of it about how it's only good for Heffalumps and Woozles. And it's funny, he mispronounces it, and then Pooh's the one that corrects. He's like, "You mean elephants and weasels?" And then Tigger's like, Adamant's like, like it's Heffalumps and Woozles, and then they go into this whole big thing. And just really, and it's funny you mentioned about how the most wonderful thing about Tigger's song was on one of the sing-along tapes. You said one of the first sing-along tapes I had had the Heffalumps and Woozles song on it. So that's my fondest memories of that song.
Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't a Tigger song. It was just he just shows up. Like it was some like beach thing or something. They were like one of the water parks. And Tigger just makes this appearance, and she flips out for it. I mean, I remember when she met Tigger too. That was a fun thing. Miranda, this Heffalumps and Woozles, that is there's a lot going on here. It's a very it's up there, right?
So I guess it's out there, but this is the little kid that Miranda was. She loved it. Like when my brothers were scared of Heffalumps and Woozles, and one was thoroughly convinced that they were living in our closet and were going to get him at night. I was like, that would be great. I love this sequence, and then maybe it is because anybody that's listened to us up this far or thus far knows that Alice is one of my favorite things. And when we talked about Dumbo, I talked about how much I actually really liked the pink elephant sequence, and it was just my favorite. So that's just fits with my personality. So that sequence to me is just wonderful, and I too had the sing-along when I was a kid that had this song on it. So
yeah,
it's really fun.
It's also kind of like the duel with Mad Madam Maxime, I think, or Mim, whatever, from Sword in the Stone, and Merlin too, when they kept changing.
Yes, when they kept going back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, because that's it. Yeah. So then we get something that actually could be a little even scarier. We get this like insane amount of rain in the 100-acre woods here, and it's the river overflows, and Pooh has to get all of his honey pots out. You see where Pooh's his priorities are, and then poor Piglet, his house gets flooded, and he ends up floating all around, and then you see them all. Christopher Robin shows up after not being around for a bit, and you get Tigger, Kanga, Roo, and Rabbit all kind of coming in a umbrella upside down. And Eeyore makes his way over there, but poor Owl, he loses his house. It falls over and goes into the water. And Piglet has sent a help in a note in a bottle to get a little help here, and they set out to find them, and which they do, and they all come to and have a little celebration with Pooh being a hero. And so Miranda, this whole sequence with the flooding, and then we end up with the hero house here, the hero party. What are your thoughts on this part?
I think it's really cute. I think it does show how like they do live independent lives here in the 100-acre wood, but at the end of the day, they're all there to like support and help each other, which we see later as we go down into further movies, not in this one specifically, or other iterations of Winnie the Pooh rather. And I think it's the whole movie. It kind of helps sums it all up. It's fun, and it's like secretly teaching kids a lesson. Like most kids shows now, they don't secretly teach them a lesson. They're purposely like out in their face trying to teach them a lesson. And I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from this specifically, that are kind of hidden. And I think that's what's endearing about a lot of the movies that maybe like the three of us grew up with, is that it kind of hides the message, but at the same time it's there and you're taking it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Plus also we have Eeyore. It's kind of like taking it upon himself to find Owl a new house. And he does. Lo and behold, though, it's Piglet's house. So, Steve, what do you think of the whole flooding sequence, and then Pooh kind of coming to the rescue, and then Eeyore on his mission, and Piglet, being the ultimate nice guy, so to speak? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny, for as dangerous as the fact that the whole forest was flooding, the fact that they had such a nice little song behind it, like the rain, rain, rain came down, down, down behind it, really lightened the mood to it. But yeah, poor Piglet, his house got flooded, he got stuck on a chair, flown away, and again, we talk about how sometimes oblivious Pooh is everything. He ends up starting to go into one of his honey pots to eat. He falls into the river, just kind of casually runs into Piglet, and then there's Owl, who's looking for them, because Christopher Robin's home just happened to be the one place that could be protected from the rising water, and then they end up going over a waterfall, and Pooh inexplicably lands in a chair, lands on Piglet's chair, while Piglet lands in the pot, and then they end up where Christopher Robin's house, and Christopher Robin puts Pooh over for saving Piglet, and Pooh's just kind of like, I did. Oh yeah, I guess because he's kind of oblivious to it, but yeah. And then they throw in the party, and then, like you said, Eeyore, finds Piglet's house, and because the sign on there that said "Trespass with Will" kind of got damaged a bit, and makes it seem like it's because of the way it's written. Eeyore took it as saying like, "Oh, this says Owl, so it belongs to Owl now," But instead of kind of letting him know he was mistaking, Piglet's like, yeah, you're right, Owl can stay there, and then Pooh says Piglet could stay with him, and yeah, then they give both of them the hero party. So I thought it was a nice little kind of conclusion to the story, kind of puts Piglet and Pooh over as heroes for helping out their friends in the end when they needed it.
Yeah, and we get this nice parade here with Tigger leading along, and we get the ta-ta for now we hear for the first time, and we have Pooh and Piglet thrown into the air basically in the blanket, which was always a lot of fun as a kid, actually. Anytime you got something like that going on. And then so we move forward a little bit, and we move into the events of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, where they kind of go on a little adventure here with Rabbit. Oh, sorry, my dog is dreaming in the background. Toby. So we get we get Piglet and Pooh living together here, and they end up going with Rabbit, and Rabbit just wants a break from Tigger, and they try to lead him into the forest and try to get rid of him, but it kind of backfires on Rabbit. So Steve, what do you think of this development here? And this is really where Rabbit is really at his end of his rope with Tigger.
Well, this is what I was referencing earlier, that how Rabbit is just, like you said, so sick and tired of Tigger's bouncing, and it gets to the point where Tigger bounces him and destroys his garden, and that's where like Rabbit finally is like, okay, I've had enough of it. So he calls this meeting about it. And Pooh and Piglet are the ones that show up, and Pooh spends most of the meeting asleep because it like doesn't bother him at all. And like you said, yeah, they decide to. He thinks his grand plan is to take them all into the woods, get Tigger lost, and then they'll find him, and Tigger will be so scared that he'll stop bouncing. And like you said, it kind of backfires when Rabbit, Pooh, and Piglet themselves get lost, and they keep coming back to that one sand pit. And then eventually Rabbit kind of goes off on his own, and then Pooh eventually decides to go back home because he's getting hungry. And sure enough, as he said, he follows his tummy. And sure enough, he and Piglet get out of the woods, and then they happen to run into Tigger, who says, "Oh, I'm a Tigger. I never get lost." So, and then they go back and eventually find Rabbit, and that's kind of a scary moment there. Rabbit all by himself, and he hears all these weird noises, and you see all these different like scary things, and then Tigger eventually finds them, and Rabbit's like, "Oh, it's like so." finally broken at that point, because it's like his grand plan backfired and he's now left holding the bag. So yeah, great little sequence there.
Mm-hmm. Miranda, what do you think of this part?
I think it's really perfect, and it poor Rabbit, you do feel bad for him, but at the same time when he's making this plan, you're like, that's really mean. And I think it kind of shows the karma of things. But it is kind of scary. I agree with you there, Steve, when they've got like this mist and he's lost, and you realize at that moment, like, oh, he's just as, kind of vulnerable and timid as they are. It just didn't come out because he was so angry. You just thought he was just like a mad rabbit, basically. And you start to feel sorry for him again, but it ends up working out. And I think that's the greatest thing about anything that happens in the 100 Acre Woods is it always works out.
Yeah. And we get to calls it chapter 10, and then I think it says, and we get snow in the 100 Acre Woods, and we have Roo is waiting for Tigger to come and play, and they bounce around. They go on a little ice skating. Of course, Rabbit, ends up getting a little terrified, and then Tigger kind of like his Tiggerness kind of gets the best of him, where he ends up a tree, and he's a little scared of it. Miranda, what are your thoughts here with Tigger kind of getting himself in a situation?
I think it was to be expected, honestly, with his bouncing and pinging and ponging and that little springy tail of his. But I think it's really cute. I like when he's stuck in the tree, not because he's stuck in the tree, but the interaction, because you get the interaction with the narrator and the whole, like, he needs down and how they get him down. And I think it's just really kind of fun, the way that it's done. Very lighthearted. It's like, oh, don't worry, if you're ever in trouble, there's always someone there to help you, kind of lesson, I guess.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that the narrator had to help him down, but it was Tigger kind of needed a little lesson here for it's okay to bounce, but you gotta do it in moderation here. Steve, what are your thoughts on this sequence as we get towards the end of the story?
Yeah, I like how each of the stories took place in like a different, season almost. Mm-hmm. So like we got, here where it's, winter and there's snow, and yeah, like you said, Tigger takes Roo out and they go have some fun, and they eventually end up in the tree, and Tigger's all freaked out. Meanwhile, Roo's just having the time of his life, not realizing what the actual danger they're in. And the kind of inconsequential moment where we see Pooh just kind of circling around this bush, following his own footsteps, but thinking they're somebody else's. And then Piglet eventually joins them. And then that's when they find out about Tigger and Roo, and they bring, Christopher Robin over, and everyone comes over to help. And Rabbit's just so delighted to see Tigger in so much trouble. And they eventually, Roo, they hold the sheet out so they can jump down and, they can help him. And Roo just, jumps willingly because he's just having so much fun. And, like I said, Tigger doesn't want to. And, and eventually Tigger gets to a point where it's like he promises never to bounce again if he helps him. And Rabbit is content, make sure to hold him then. Like you said, then the narrator ends up helping out by turning the book to the side so that Tigger can get on the words, and then he, slides him down. And like once Tigger hits the ground, he's so happy. The first thing he wants to do is bounce, and Rabbit's like, "Nope, you gave your word. You're not going to bounce." And Tigger's kind of like, "Oh yeah, I did, but I did." And he's gets so sad, and Rabbit's like so satisfied. But then everybody's like, "Oh, I miss Tigger when he used to be a bouncer," and it almost kind of like guilty Rabbit to the point. It's like, yeah, I guess I kind of missed him like that too. And Tigger eventually gets excited and can have his bounce back, and then they eventually all bounce off into the woods. So. Yeah, fun, really fun story, kind of conclusion here to the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's remarkable about this movie is that it's a compilation. No different than some of the earlier movies that we watched, Make Mine Music, Ichabod and Mr. Toad, but it doesn't feel that way at all. They just take these, because I remember seeing this in its entirety, but I also remember watching. Like picking them up like individually, like I think on tape, like the individual parts of it, never really putting two and two together, that they just compiled this for a long time. And it's masterfully done. I mean, this is, I think, the last movie to be released that Walt Disney actually had any kind of involvement in, because he really loved the A.A. Milne stories. So what are any final thoughts that we haven't talked about Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh? We'll start with you, Steve. Any final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, like you said, you don't think of it as a compilation film because the stories just seem to flow so seamlessly. But you look into them, you realize that they were all released separately back in the prior to it. And I'd like that little like epilogue at the end there where Christopher Robin leaves to go off to school, and all the characters are kind of like going through all like the like subjects you go through at school, and then you get that little moment there at the end with Christopher Robin and Pooh, where Pooh will be there, will always be there waiting for him when he comes back, and it's like a nice little like send off there to see these two are gonna always be friends even when Christopher Robin eventually goes away. So yeah, it's just a fun little thing, fun little movie, and it's really not much more to say about it.
Yeah, like Pooh wanted, we all wish we can go back to page 1, but we can't. All stories have an ending. Miranda, any final thoughts on this movie?
I'm with you guys, and I do think it is very interesting that when you look back, you see that these were individually done, and it's just so cohesively done. Individually they came out in 66, 68, and then 74, but together as a whole in 77. And actually, one of them, I can't remember which one, if one of you guys remember which one, but one of the segments actually won an Academy Award for animated short film. And of course, I guess that, it's interesting that it won an award then and then became part of such a great movie later. I think it's fantastic, but I think it shows the work and that time that we were still in with Disney, where honestly everything they put out was really good and made sense. And I encourage people that maybe watched it as a kid and was like, oh yeah, I really liked that, to go watch it again, because there's not much more we can say other than like, go watch it. It's just so endearing to see again, and it's so like comforting. It's only 74 minutes long. It's just a fun watch.
It is a fun watch, and it's a very fun discussion. But before we go, let's kind of talk about what we have, where else we could be found besides this wonderful podcast that we do together. Miranda, what are your social medias, other shows that you're doing at the moment? What do you got?
Of course. So social media, I said this last time, I think on our Muppets pod that you and I did together, but I before sent everybody to find me at Instagram, which you can still do just by searching for Moms and Nerds. That's not the official handle, but that's how you find me. And then I'm now on TikTok as well. And recently joined the Stream Lounge, where you can watch Andy and I every now and then. So I got the Stream Lounge going, and people are following me, and that's kind of cool. So I want other people to go join Stream Lounge. Geek and Sassy is still happening over on the Ginny Position, and you can go listen to that. Of course, I'm most predominantly heard here on Place to Be Nation Pop Feed in several shows. This one, Telly and T, and then our Muppets podcast, the most sensational, inspirational. Oh Jesus, I had it and then I forgot it.
I know you did it on Geek and Sassy without seeing, so I was very impressed with that.
I did. I did it, and then I was like, oh my God, Andy would be so proud of me. It's a good name. It's a really good podcast name, but it's sometimes ADHD brain and long podcast name that rhymes. It doesn't come out of Miranda's mouth very well. And I've heard on a plethora of others when I grace my feed, the feed with my presence of guesting. Of course, in the group. I'm sure you guys will talk about it too, but I'll cover two birds that you guys don't have to: Stream Lounge and the Facebook group. Please join the Place to Be Facebook group where we talk about all kinds of things. Today, Andy asked people's opinions on macaroni and cheese. There's a song of the day, lots of wrestling discussion if that is your forte. So there's plenty of places that you can find me and, of course, the two other gentlemen here. But guys, what about you?
Steve.
Well, you can usually find me here on the Pop feed. I'm usually a regular guest on Mickey Mount Rushmore on this feed and on the wrestling feed. I believe the most recent wrestling edition we have coming out will be on SummerSlam's matches and SummerSlam shows, because obviously with it being August, it's SummerSlam month, so we got that going on. I'm also on the placetobenation.com, the website. I have several regular articles going on over there. I have the Vintage Wall previewing, the box office report, my entire collection of the my wonderful reviews of Disney, where I discuss all the films, and my wonderful list of Disney, which is just about coming to an end. I'll be ranking all the films here in the next few weeks. And actually, I wanted to ask, since I know you guys, I'm sure you guys have been keeping up on all of them. What do you guys think of the list so far? Has anything jumped out to you? Anything caught you off guard? Are you surprised by anything? Like, what have you guys thought of the list so far?
Oh, talk about putting us on the spot, Steve.
Right?
Jeez.
Well, first off, you're doing an excellent job with those. I think they're amazing. So there is that. Like, it's a wonderful thing. There's been a few times when you've asked questions or asked to rank, you know, in the group for the article or for the post. I'm always kind of like surprised when people either agree with me or sometimes they don't agree. And I think it's really cool to kind of like see the lists and how they play out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perusing your top 10. I pretty much agree with it. I think all these songs are deserving to be in here. I mean, it's a little, heavy with the later films, I think, in here. So, I think it's really good. It's open for a discussion. And I really can't wait to see what you do next after you conclude this incredible undertaking that you've endeared here. So it's been a great, thing for the website, and I know our good friend Trent has really enjoyed it as well. He's shouted out to you. So yeah, no, it's definitely been a lot of fun and a labor of love, I'm guessing. Yeah,
it's definitely been it's taken up a good, the last year, really the last 2 years. It's been a lot of work, but it's definitely been a very enjoyable one.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you need to plug, or are you all set?
No, that's pretty much it. Miranda mentioned, the Facebook page. So.
Yeah. Speaking of the Facebook group, if it hasn't started by now, we are actually having a tournament coming soon. It may have started by now. I believe we are going to be doing, following up on the greatest sitcom tournament, we're going to be doing the greatest TV drama tournament. So pay attention to the Facebook group for that. If it hasn't started yet, it will very soon. Miranda did mention Stream Lounge. We're going to have more of a regular presence on there. I have my, my new series, Blockbuster Rewatch, which I am doing a rewatch of the entire MCU. And I just started with Iron Man with Tim Capel joined us. Also, you could hear, if you don't want to go on Stream Lounge, also, we are going to be releasing them as podcasts on this feed. So don't worry about that. Miranda, you are joining me for Iron Man 2.
I am.
Since The Incredible Hulk is not on Disney Plus, I'm going to be doing that as a pod separately. I am still working on securing a guest for that one, because that's not high on anybody's list at all. So getting somebody to sit through The Incredible Hulk is not the easiest sales pitch I may put out there. Also, though, you and I did our first one. I did as Laugh in Theater because I hadn't had Blockbuster Rewatch set up yet, but we did Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
We did.
So, yes, that is on Stream Lounge. And the great thing about Stream Lounge is that if you're not there live for us while we're actually watching and recording the movie watch, you can go back at any time and watch it, and you just won't be able to interact with us, which was great. It was it is tremendous when people are in the chat room and can comment along with the movie and you can react to it. It's really a lot of fun. It was something I had never experienced before, and I really enjoyed it. But also, in terms of podcasts, you can hear me here with Laugh in Theater. Steve mentioned Making Mount Rushmore, as often. Let's see, what else do I have? Hopefully Great Debate will be back soon. Looking back. We're in talks to bring that back very soon. Pub Goes to Movies. We're doing, great movie reviews. Anytime, we have a group of us that have seen a movie. We did Black Widow. Hopefully we will have done Snake Eyes, which I loved. Being a G.I. Joe fan growing up.
So excited for that.
I loved that movie. That's all I gotta say. And I definitely will be doing one for the Jungle Cruise. I can tell you that Jenny won't be on that one.
I might.
But Miranda could be. Yes. So, yeah, lots of great stuff. Check out all the feeds, though. That is the PlayStation Wrestling Network, the Jenny Position, and the North-South Connection. So, Steve, you will be sitting in the driver's seat, so to speak, for our next episode. What will we be covering on that episode?
We are going to be covering actually the second film of 1977 because there were two released that year. We just talked about the first one, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and the next one will be The Rescuers, one I'm very excited about talking about.
Yep. I enjoyed it as a kid. Did I enjoy it as an adult as much? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So, for Steve Riddle and Miranda Berthold, I am Andy Atherton. Thank you for joining us here on Pop Goes the Classics Disney, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.